I'm super excited to have both you in here at the same time. We were just saying a second ago, it's a whole lot of sexy going on in this thing. You know what I mean?
I'll take it, man.
You know, let's take it.
I'll take it.
Absolutely. And Brad, you've been here before.
Yes, sir.
You know, and I'm happy to have you back. And Chad, this is your first time. So
Yeah, thank you, man.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, thanks.
But for those who don't know, I'd love for you to introduce yourselves. Tell me just a little bit about what you're doing even now. Just throw me a little bone.
Sure.
Yeah, man, I'll jump in. I'm Chad Womack, age 51. Been in Austin for probably 30 years now, I guess. And as you know, and why I think we're here, we've had quite a few nightclubs and bars over that time, and we're just in a transition period right now, you know, and it's a very interesting transition period. So I'll let Brad fill in the back end of that, but we started selling some off, as you know, Mike, and I joined my younger brother's real estate brokerage and doing that with my wife, and so that's been a pretty natural progression, only because I've had my license for 10 years and we own some single family investment homes, but it's been interesting. It's been interesting starting a new career at age 51.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine almost semi-reinventing, right?
Man, it is, Mike. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because so much of what you do becomes who you are. You know what I mean?
So
At the end of the day, and sometimes it's like, wait a second, what am I doing? How am I doing this? I totally get it.
Yeah, and not to even commandeer this introduction.
please.
I'll touch on that very quickly. You know, the bar business. It's all I wanted to do since high school. I mean, honestly, I was obsessed with it, and I studied it. I would go to other bars and look at how they were set up. Long story short, so when I had that much genuine and natural passion for a business, and now to see that coming to an end for the most part, at least on the level that we were doing,
right?
It's been an interesting study, you know, and just personal psyche and reinventing myself, like you said. That's an understatement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Brad.
My turn?
It's your turn, baby.
My name is Brad Womack. I have been here before, and I appreciate you inviting us back, man, especially with Chad.
Yeah,
I'm not just saying this, man. It's been a dream come true doing one of these with him, so I appreciate that, you know. There's nothing I can say that he didn't say. Yes, we are in a transition. I know we talked about that before. Chad's the more ambitious one because he has something going on right now. I'm still kind of sitting on the couch. And so I'm trying to follow twin brother's lead here, but and it's a hell of an example to follow. But anyway, yeah, thanks for having us, man. I'm excited. I've been really excited about this.
No, absolutely. You know, and we need to do it more.
Yeah, I'd love to.
At the end of the day, I think it's something that's good. It gives people stories and things that hopefully they can learn from.
Sure.
They can be entertained by it, things like that. You know?
I'll tell you, man, and I think I told you this last time. I'll stop saying that. But you know why I like doing this with you is I learned so much about you the first time. And frankly, you have a lot of things that I want to emulate my personal and professional life. And so that's what I meant about thanks for having us back, man. I mean, I kind of hang on to every word you say, and
I don't know why.
Well, no, you're leading by example, man. You know that, and even things like this, the podcast, and you know, you're multifaceted, so it's pretty impressive stuff.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, man. I mean it.
Well, I got some questions.
Uh-oh.
I've got some questions that I've always wanted to ask twins. You always hear certain things about twins and stuff, so I'm going to ask you guys.
Okay, let's go.
Simple questions. I'm not going to go deep yet. But like, if you stub your toe, do you feel it?
No, but I feel the wrath of him stubbing his toe and handling it like a 4-year-old, you know?
Yeah.
No, but there's certain things, you know, on that line of thinking that, I mean, I could tell I can sense if Brad's in a bad mood or if something's going down that he hadn't really versed yet. You know, it's just, and maybe you could do that with other people that you're just close to, like I'm sure you and your wife or whatever. But man, we've been extremely close since day one. We've been through a lot of things together, and so I think I can sense that it just heightens that internal awareness, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't think either one of us can BS the other one. Meaning you know, you could say one thing, and if you don't actually mean it, the other one would say, no, let's hear what we're talking about. Let's just skip the fluff. Let's just get it over. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? So
I wonder if that goes back to like a whole frequency thing and everything else that we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
You know, you guys being in the womb at the same time, shared that space and probably shared a lot of those different frequencies and everything else. Because you always hear stories about a twin can be across the country and something happens and the other one knows.
Sure.
Or something like that. So I've always been fascinated by that.
You know, I'll tell you this, just jumping on that, you're onto something, no doubt about it. But there have been times, more often than not, actually, that one of us will reach out to the other and like, what's going on, man? Now let's talk. Something's up. And I mean that, you know, something kind of dark, maybe something heavy, and you know, actually something pretty good too. But it's more of the dark times. Maybe it is that vibration that you just kind of feel it. You just kind of know. And many times that one phone call or text, hey man, pick up the phone, let's talk, will save me, right? And hopefully the same for him. But I think you're onto something about vibrations and things like that.
No, that's tremendous that you guys have that close of a relationship. Because even, you know, you hear it all sorts of ways, right? You know, some siblings can't stand each other.
Sure. Yeah.
Some twins can't stand each other.
Yep.
But, you know, it's good to have someone that's connected to you that close, right? Because I'm a firm believer we weren't made and put on this planet to walk alone, right?
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron, all that good stuff.
Yep.
And especially with men, you know, we don't. You know, in years past, you weren't supposed to have those emotions or feelings or be able to lean on other men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's something that I think in the past couple of years is even becoming more natural for individuals, you know, which is good.
Yeah,
you know? Absolutely. I know. Did you guys play sports together? Were you on the same teams? Did you?
Man, this is wild. Let me jump in there, and Chad, I'll let you speak too.
No,
you know?
that's all right. You told me not to speak, so only when you allowed it. So.
You know, he's the eldest, so I always have to listen to him. And
yeah,
so,
we need to put that out there.
Yeah.
I'm 9 minutes older, Mike, and I've carried the weight for 51 years.
Here
now,
we go.
Yeah.
I'll make it quick, man. Believe it or not, you know, we didn't play sports growing up, and one of the things is, you know, we didn't grow up with much at all. And so our family, or our parents, were, of course, provided food. But it was if you want anything out of, you know, 3 squares a day, you want the cool T-shirt or with skateboards or whatever, you're going to have to work for it. And so we were sacking groceries literally every single day after school. And I know a lot of kids do that and play sports. But frankly, we weren't that athletic of kids, correct? I mean,
no, we suck.
Yeah, we tried.
My wife has 4 younger brothers, all athletes, and they always look at me like, "What happened? You know, like, you're a decent sized guy.
Yeah.
Like, what?"
Yeah.
And I'm like,
What
man,
happened?
I just need to know how to dribble, man.
Yeah.
But we didn't play. No. We didn't play sports.
No, we didn't. But couldn't be closer, obviously, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Was there anything at a younger age that you guys did together? You know, whether it be, you know, hiking, you know, you're immensely into fitness.
Sure.
You know, and have been for years, and you look like a freaking stud.
No kidding, man.
I mean,
Yeah.
even in the past several months.
Thanks,
mean,
Mike.
I know
Seriously.
that absolutely.
Well,
and every
thank you.
time I talk to Brad, it's, you know, similarly, I said the exact same thing. Just, you're looking phenomenal.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah,
just trying to work
absolutely.
hard. You know,
Yeah.
as we all know, it's consistency, and I'll be the first to say, me personally, have struggled with consistency for many different reasons, and none more than just myself. I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm an excuse maker about anything, and I just need to call myself out. And so, you know, it's been a while ago now, but regarding fitness and stuff, and then I'll answer your question. But I just finally got to the point that it's like, man, just start being consistent with consistency. You know, I have a daughter that's watching me. I have my wife that's watching me. You know, I have people that, you know, frankly, I've let some people down over the past, in a whole different podcast, over some choices I made. But that whole victim mentality is washing itself away very quickly. And it's, I'm just trying to stick with it, man, you know, and still having some fun on the side. But, Yeah, I mean, when you have freaking Superman that's your twin brother, and
Come on,
Mike,
man.
how many
Got no
times can I
choice.
go in a place they're like, "Oh, y'all are identical"? You like identical,
on, man.
like same egg? Like, you sure same egg? But no, I just decided to be consistent, man. I just need to feel better, man.
Yeah,
you know.
and
And
it
to
does.
answer your question, no, we didn't do anything that I can think of at a young age. Like we were always around each other, but there weren't any real hobbies that we really did together at all times, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
but that's the thing. I mean, we were together so much that on the days we'd mountain bike and we'd I mean, anything we did was together.
Yeah.
So to
fair.
answer your question, I mean, not to,
Everything.
literally everything.
That's
you
fair.
know, and so I mean, so whether it was, okay, I mentioned sacking groceries earlier. Okay, well, I'm going to get a job too, sacking groceries, and but anything on the weekends, if we did literally anything, let's go run, whatever. It was always together.
Yeah.
And for the most part, it was drinking beer, if you want to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Together.
and together.
Together.
But we did it together. That's solidarity.
Teamwork.
Okay,
Teamwork.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I seem
But,
to show up to that activity every time. Yeah,
That's
you talk about
consistency.
Consistency. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
No, we had a hell of a time growing
Yeah.
up, man, together.
Yeah, I know that you had touched on some of, just growing up in particular.
Yes,
and,
sir.
what the household was like
Yeah.
and things of that nature. I'd love to hear your take on it as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, good, bad, indifferent type stuff. Long story short, we grew up in Atlanta. At the time, we had 3 other siblings, so 2 stepsisters and a stepbrother, and then we have a younger brother, Wes, also that's here in Austin. We're extremely close with him as well. But and it was just different, It really was. We moved from Atlanta to Livingston, Texas, and frankly, it was a big shock. I mean, we moved from a nice neighborhood to a shack, no central AC, and then moved from there into a double wide trailer, and because my mom had inherited some land, and that's just what we knew, And so, growing up, then, man, Mike, I look back now, and I even think of my mom just had to have just been in survival mode the entire time.
Yeah,
and,
man. Yeah.
Being a parent now and thinking what it must have been like after they divorced, and she had 3 boys, to raise on her own. Man, I can't imagine, because it's hard. I mean, we all know how hard it is. So, back to the point, I guess it's just a good lesson, and a lot of times we just have to figure things out on our own, and nothing against my mom. I mean, she, again, survival mode. So it's figure it out on your own. If you want something, you get it, you earn it on your own. If, you want money to spend on school clothes, you get a job sacking groceries, and that's just what we did.
Yeah.
So.
I'll tell you this, to jump in on that, man, it's I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I'll tell you why. It's the work ethic. If I'm proud of anything, literally anything in our lives, it's work ethic, and because I think it's a fleeting thing these days, in my opinion. For the younger generation, I know I sound old, which I am, but I wouldn't have traded that for anything in the world. Like, yeah, great. You want something, go earn it. I mean, nothing's been given, and so, but I will tell you what Chad said about leaving Atlanta and our stepfather at the time. We talked about this, I think.
Yeah.
Did kind of well, and then he lost his job, and it was a crazy story. But and like Chad said, moving to a shack, no central AC, and then we upgraded to a double wide trailer, and it taught us one, don't put value in material things. I mean, at least we had a roof over our head, but to bounce the shock factor off of each other. I mean, we're impressionable kids, right? I'm thinking, Chaz, is this normal? I don't know, buddy. You tell me. Is this normal? I don't know, man. And it was a little bit of a culture shock, but having him to lean on and just put your head down and work through it was just invaluable, in my opinion.
I'll jump in real quick. Also, that's not even an aw shucks or woe is me. It's just facts. And God knows, I mean, I'm sure you're this way too. The more that we all go through life, like everybody has a story, and the person who's making $1.5 million a year today very well could be making $50,000 next year. Everybody has a story. It to me at least, it doesn't matter what you do or who. I just care about who you are, and my point is, I don't say these things like like to feel sorry for me or anybody. It's just facts. It's just life.
Well, and at the end of the day, too, I think things like that, of course, you're a product of your environment, but where you've been brings you to where you are today, right? And,
Sure.
You look at society today, and a lot of kids don't have a work ethic.
Not at all.
Very similar. I was at HEB, 15 years old.
Damn right.
Sacking groceries and everything else, and I always had 2 or 3 jobs. If you wanted it, you got it yourself.
Yes, sir.
It was funny. My dad had told me, if you just get B's, we'll buy you a car. Just B's. I couldn't even do that.
Isn't that interesting? Oh, yeah.
I couldn't even do that.
Yeah.
And because I thought, they'll still get me one. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
No,
Good for him.
he didn't.
Good on
but
him,
that
man.
taught me, and I bought my own car.
Sure.
And it made me appreciate it, and I rebuilt it and turned it into this custom car and everything else, and then got into street racing and all the stupid stuff I really shouldn't have done. But
hey, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Was your dad mechanically inclined?
Oh, yeah.
So that's something you guys did together? I bet you valued it.
Kinda.
Okay, gotcha,
So when I was
gotcha.
younger, I used to have to fetch everything for him, because
sure.
he was always working on something.
Yep.
And then whenever I started working on things, he's like, here's the tool. Don't turn it that way. And it's not like he was in there up to his elbows with me. He was pointing at stuff and go, all right, when you break it, Kyle, be inside.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yeah.
He would never let me go too far.
Gotcha,
Right?
yeah.
But with that said, I learned everything that I know today because of him.
Yeah.
And he even, and we may have talked about this last time, one of the things that he used to say to me that always sticks with me is I would call him about my car or something. And again, I street raced, so something was always breaking. The car won't start, it won't this, it's making this noise, blah, blah, blah. And he would always go, did you check the battery? And I'd be like, battery has nothing to do with it. Do you have gas? And I was like, these are the stupidest things that you're asking me. It's got to be this or this or this. And his point was always start when you have a problem with the simplest thing before you jump ahead to something more major.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because more times than not, it's just the smallest thing that makes all the difference in the world, but we look past that.
I'm going to go fill up my car, buddy. I'll be back.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Wow,
I like that.
And so throughout my life, if I ever had a problem, even with anything, he would tell me, he would go, did you check the battery?
No.
And it was just a mental note to go back and go, start with the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the easiest solution to work forward, So it's funny, Dad passed away. It's coming up on a year at the end of this month. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was take his toolbox.
Yeah.
Because that's what I learned everything on. So it's sitting in my garage now and everything else. So there's just those certain things that mean a ton to individuals, you know what I mean? And that was mine. So, and again, everything's still in the same order that it was when I was a kid, which is even cooler.
I sure do appreciate how you speak of your father. I know you respected and loved him very much, and I'm glad you had that relationship.
And it wasn't like that for forever. There was a time where we didn't talk for a few years.
I didn't know that. Why?
Well,
if you don't mind me asking.
I started building at 24.
Yeah.
He sold everything that we built.
Okay.
I'm a little hot-headed, and especially back then I was. And my thought process was, I don't want to pop off at my dad because he's my dad the way that I would someone else, right? Like a subcontractor or something like that. But there was also a way that I did things and a way that he did things.
Of course.
So I had approached him and I just said, look, just because I was frustrated with stuff doesn't mean I was right or wrong or anything else. But my thought was, I don't want to have a relationship with you to where I feel bad because I say something that offends you or something like that, because it's a business aspect, right? And I've always been able to separate business and personal. Not a lot of people can do that. Sometimes you can't, but it was always easier. And I said, I think it's better if you don't sell my stuff, because I'd rather you just be my dad.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that.
Yeah.
And so he thought that no matter what, I should be giving him everything.
Yeah. Sure.
And more than that, I wanted the relationship to be good,
Yeah.
And that's solely why I had said that. So we didn't talk for a few years.
Man, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it was really around when Bristol and I got together, because she refused. She was like, That's not going to happen. You guys are gonna be with one another,
And that's
you're
a good
gonna
woman.
talk. Oh yeah,
Good woman.
You know, and then he finally came around, and one day he was just like, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
You know, his father had passed away, and I think at that point he was just like, what are we doing?
I like it.
You know,
yeah.
so we got even closer.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
At that point. So we spent a ton of time together. So yeah, it was something that I'm glad that we weren't in that same boat, right?
Yeah.
You know, so
Good.
we both grew up.
Did he go back to selling your homes?
No.
Okay.
No,
He just
he
came back
understood.
into your life. It was just one of those,
Yeah.
let's separate that, man. Wow.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Again, I didn't want to harm our relationship.
Yeah, man.
And I know because I'm stubborn that could have happened.
Sure.
You know, from a feeling aspect and stuff like that. And again, I didn't want to get upset at my dad for something that I think he should have done, or
Yeah.
I would have done it this way. I didn't want that. you know?
Absolutely.
So it was really interesting. But yeah, no, we were tight. We did everything together after that.
Love that, yeah.
Which is awesome. So, you know, it's relationships like that and relationships like that you guys have, you know, that are tremendous, that you have to lean on one another.
Of course.
You know, so in doing things together all the time, stuff like that, you guys decided to go into business. Was the bar the very first business that y'all did together?
It was. Yeah, it was.
I'll let you take that one. Yeah.
No, it's funny because to sum this up, again, it's all I wanted to do is open bars. And Brad at the time was working at Dell. And I remember going to his place and I would just say, man, look, you know, I was starting to build a pretty good crowd around town just as a bartender. And, you know,
Where did you bartend?
This was at Treasure Island.
Treasure Island.
Yeah.
You know, Mike worked on 6th Street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Hang 'em
gotcha.
High from the time they opened to
Yeah.
the time they closed, and then Lucky Lounge and
Yeah.
Lavaca and
Amazing venues.
Shakespeare's
Yeah.
for a little bit.
So long story short, man, I remember talking to Brad, like we could do this together. We could build a name together. You know, we're twins. We get along, blah, blah, blah. And then he decided to quit Dell and start bartending. And that was basically it. And then we just got an opportunity of a lifetime for our very first venue, and then grew it into 13 venues over 25 years. And so it was a great ride, man.
I want to jump in and sing Chad's praises. I have to, right? But he's kind of being a little bit humble. I've never seen anyone with as much laser focused on a dream. On a goal, because a dream sometimes can be a little too lofty, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, from day one, it really was like Tom Cruise in Cocktail. I'm not kidding at all, and not for the fun part of it, but because he knew he could make this into a business, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't about chasing the girls. It wasn't about looking cool. It wasn't about any of that. It was about, no, man, look, we're going to do this, but this can be an actual business. But you're going to have to quit, and we're going to work at the very bottom, because we can't do this right if we don't work from the bottom. And that's all he did. He ate, slept, and breathed the bar business, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I was selling software at Dell Computer. And at 27 years old, quit because he said, man, we've got to do this. And, you know, I'm telling my girlfriend at the time and my mom, yeah, I'm going to go bartend. Like, what? But still just following his lead, man. I've truly never seen anyone say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so you want to come along, please. I think there's strength in numbers, and let's do this. And frankly, the conviction from Chad was why I jumped on board. Like, if this dude is leading the charge, then we can't fail. I mean, obviously there's failures, and you know what I mean, but we're gonna do this. And I just shut the hell up and followed his lead, you know, and I loved it.
Well, and even in Austin, there was really, and I'm going to give you all kudos as well, there was really two people, well, three, but one's old school, and that Moody doesn't count. But there's really two groups that did really well, and it was y'all, and it was Matt Lucky.
Well, thank you.
If you think about downtown,
Yeah.
you know, in the good days, you know, before it was Dirty Six and everything else, as you look at that, and it was really y'all. You know what I mean? And it almost seems like there was, and that's the funny thing, because we ran in the same big group, but there was two separate groups, it seemed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. Matt always had the guys he stuck with.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know what I mean? And similarly, you know, y'all. And that's what I think is just hilarious. But going back to, that's when I think of Old Six, that's what I think about.
Yeah,
you know?
man, yeah.
So kudos to y'all.
Well, best times of my life. I mean, I don't know about you, but working with my twin brother and starting it, you know, we were doing it, man. It felt really good, you know, that two somewhat uneducated kids, just speaking of work ethic, just put our heads down. And don't get me wrong, I mean, our little brother was our business partner. Jason Carrier was our business partner. So, I mean, we damn sure couldn't have and wouldn't have done it alone.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it was just that focus, man. And frankly, I try to tell other people when they ask for anything, just, hey, man, if you have a goal, just focus on it and nothing else. Be willing to sacrifice. Just put your head down and do it.
And that's where it goes back to
it.
consistency, too.
Damn right.
Very similar.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think I just admitted I've been riding his coattails for 23 years.
You did it. You did it well.
Let's go.
He
All
didn't
right.
even know
Thanks.
it. So you just keep that little portion and you pull that out whenever you need
I'm
it.
actually going to slip him the 100,
Yep.
like off
There you
hammer.
go.
100.
There you
True
go.
story, man. Good feeling.
So
appreciate that.
I've heard nothing but good times. Let me know 1 or 2 times where things between you guys was not so good.
Sure.
And how you got through it.
Yeah, man,
bet.
I'll jump in and I'll. This was our last. I mean, this was the biggest one, and again, I'm an accountable person, but we opened a bar in Fort Worth, and man, it's the first time we had ever had investors. We had never had investors for the first 12, for the first 24 years,
Which is unheard of
in
the bar industry.
It was always self-funded. We always did it on our own. We had SBA loans. We never had investors. So, and we'd always reinvest in the business. And I'll make a long story short, man, but we decided to open a bar in Fort Worth, and it was during COVID, so we couldn't get a loan. You know, nobody was, for obvious reasons. And so we took out investors and stuff, and I was put in charge to go down there, and I failed miserably. Mike. It was a utter lack of leadership. You know, I could go down the list of reasons, but they're not excuses, they're facts, and it falls 100% on my shoulders. You know, I really did Brad and Jason wrong. I did my team wrong there, and frankly, they weren't even my team because of lack of leadership. And it taught me a lot of lessons. You know, it was one of those things, man, that when I was talking about it, when I went to them and I said, I'll open this and I'll be the guy on board, I meant it. I believed it. And even when we went to our investors, you know, I believed it. I really did. It's not like, frankly, I surprised myself of lack of performance. So to sum it up, that was our first immediate and utter failure. We had to close after 6 months. Hemorrhaging money, constant cash calls. I would like to go on record of saying we paid our investors back. We did not stick them out. In fact, we paid investors back to the penny, all of them. It was just something that we decided to do. But that doesn't help my social currency and my standing with my business partners. And it put a fracture between the three of us, rightfully so. And so digging out of that was probably the biggest. We've obviously had some over the years. I mean, it's been 25 years, you know, since 2001, actually, so 24 basically. But that was the biggest one, the most recent. And frankly, we're still trying to recover from that. And I'll end by saying, you know, if the men that Brad and Jason are, you know, when they say, you know, it's forgotten and we forgive you, it stings, whatever, great, and that's good. It doesn't get our personal money back. It doesn't get that time back. And I'll say it on a comic note, like, you know, most people who are saying, yeah, but you'll bat at 1,000 forever. You have one fit, you know, you have to have one, you know, at least you get the lessons. Well, you know, I would take those lessons on all day long because I did it. But my partners didn't deserve to be taught those lessons by my hand. And so that's a long story of saying, in fact, I guess I publicly want to say that failure was on me. It had nothing to do with my partners who were doing their job. I didn't do my job, and I was the main reason that bar in business failed.
That's huge. That's huge for anybody to admit, right? And that sounds like just a load to carry. Even if, to your point, that, you know, everybody says everything's good and, you know, forgiven and water under the bridge and everything else, there's things that we do sometimes that we'll never fully let go ourselves, which unfortunately can lead to dark times. You know? Tell me a little bit about that. I know that Brad and I have talked a little bit just about mental health in general.
Oh, sure, man.
And it's, I'm very appreciative of you guys even wanting to talk about this, especially most men are just like, yeah, whatever, you know, you walk away from it and stuff. But Brad specifically was like, you know, very open about everything. And then when you responded to me and was like, I'd love to talk about this, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, this could be extremely powerful. Number one, for others, but number two, for yourselves at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, man. And I'm open about it. And I even appreciate you asking, man. Yeah. I've always had, from the moment I met you, I had a great deal of respect for you. So I trust that, you know, when I say I trust you, I trust that this information is being received in the correct way. And I again, disclaimer, I'm not a victim. I'm not asking anybody to feel sorry for me. My life is great. By my standards, my life is great. So I'll be the first to say it. And but I told you this last time we met. You know, frankly, after that Fort Worth thing, this is probably the first time I've admitted this publicly, but I ended up in rehab. And I went to Sage Recovery, which the 30 days there was amazing. And it wasn't just for alcohol. It was more for mental health stuff because, you know, and I'll say this shortly, I've always battled with it. I mean, since high school. The last 5 years have really ramped up into being a fucking monster, and pardon my language.
No.
It's become a monster. And I told you this last time we talked, you know, in spite of, I look around and I'm married to my soulmate. I've got the most perfect daughter on earth. Literally, they're both very healthy. You know, I can pay my bills. I'm not trying to sound any way. I've lived a beautiful life by my standards. Some people may think I have nothing. Some people may think I have everything. By my standards, it's beautiful. And I still wake up miserable. And I don't know why. And I try to fight that every day. Frankly, during that Fort Worth debacle, it was at an all-time high. You know, between us, well, and he's ever listening?
Just between us.
Just between us.
I'm shocked I made it out alive. I've just got to be honest. There were times that I didn't think I was. And, you know, this is as recent as 2 days ago, telling my wife, I've really got to get a handle on this because, again, man, I mean, look at this. Look at what we get to do. Look at the family I get to go home to. And anybody listening would say what a pitiful statement, but it's not as easy as just be happy. It's not for me. Not for me. And one thing, again, I'll say about Sage, and I'm not doing a commercial for it, I loved the place because it did. And people ask me, hey, did it work? And my only answer is, well, I'm alive, so yes.
Yeah.
You know, have I drank since Sage? Yes, I have. Have I been depressed since Sage recovered? Yes, absolutely. I've been as dark as I was before, but I'm alive. So it took me out of that space, and that's the great measuring stick. But regardless, it's an issue, and I struggle with it daily, and I try to fight it. Some days it's hard to get out of my house. I'm being as honest as I can be. It's funny, we were in the social bar business because me being in a crowded room really gets to me, and I don't want to use the bugs words like anxiety or whatever, but I get downright, it's weird. It's weird. I get these physical symptoms.
Yep.
And then sometimes I'm great.
Yeah.
So I struggle with it, man. It's an ongoing struggle. And one thing I'd like to do at this point in my life is just talk to people who have been there and say, hey, man, I'm obviously not a counselor. I have problems all the time. I had problems yesterday. I'm going to have them tomorrow. But if you're thinking about doing anything drastic, call me at 2 a.m. I'll come to your house. We'll sit in a room. You don't even have to say anything. Let's just get through this hour, man. Let's get through this hour. Okay, let's get through this morning. All right, we got through the morning. Because I've been there. Like I being proud of myself for getting through that hour. You know, it sounds drastic, but I have. It's just the facts.
Yeah.
So that's my battle with it, and it's ongoing, man. It's ongoing. It's thick. It is.
Yeah.
It's thick. So
I appreciate you sharing that.
yeah,
It takes
that's
a lot.
just the truth, man.
And that's part of, healing and everything else is being able to express that. And that's I don't know many people that can do that. So I thank you
you're welcome.
for saying that for sure.
Mike, you mind me? Do you struggle with it? But I know you're a big advocate for discussing it, and I'm thank you for allowing the platform, right? But do you struggle with it at all?
Every once in a while, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much in your business.
No,
obviously, but,
absolutely. I don't. Yeah, I'm good with it. No, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I was in a funk. I went through a really bad divorce, and then prior to that divorce, I went through a bankruptcy.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got basically left with about $6 million in properties that investors just ran from.
Right.
And I was holding everything.
Right.
Holding the note on everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had no choice. Mm-hmm. And I looked at myself for years as a failure.
I hear that. Yeah.
What did I do wrong? How could I have been better? And this, that, and the other. And, I started in that business at 24. I didn't really have a mentor. I really didn't have, my father-in-law at the time, I could bounce some questions off of, but he was definitely a little more school of the hard knocks, which was fine because I learned a ton, right? Some things, were a little rougher to learn than others, but I went through some super dark times in that because I didn't believe in myself as a man anymore.
Understand.
And that was even a time period in which I didn't feel comfortable going to my guy friends about it,
Yes, I do.
And so I kept it all inside. I had a son I had to, that I was fighting for custody of. And, I've always been the hard ass, and I could never show that there's a chink in my armor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And there's some real rough times.
Wow. I hear you, man.
Yeah, even in the bar industry, I had to leave for a good 6 months. There was a time period in which we would get to work at 5 o'clock, start prepping everything, and you immediately start drinking.
Of course.
I was about to ask. So heavy drinking involved, obviously.
Sure.
Heavy.
Yeah.
By 11 o'clock, I didn't remember anything. And then it's bad when you wake up and you don't have a hangover.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
Yep.
But I also had, at any given time, a second or a third job as well. So there was many times where I would sleep in my car at the bar, and then I worked at Bank One in the vault. And I would literally get out, rest my hair and run back in.
I don't know why I think that's so funny coming from Hang'em High Saloon to a bank.
Smelling like cigarettes, smoke,
that's
and
what
whiskey,
I'm getting at. Yeah, Jägermeister on your little button-up collared shirt.
I mean, it was, and we were in the basement, so it didn't matter what you wore or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was like 4 or 5 people in there. But it was rough. But you wake up. There's many times where I didn't know where I was, or I couldn't find my phone, or something like that, and I didn't know how I got there, how I was going to leave, who I was next to, just scary shit.
Yeah.
And I just made a mental note. I've got to leave. And I literally left for about 6 months. Because at that time when I was at Hang'em High, that was like the place.
Oh yeah.
Waylon Jennings played there, Merle Haggard. We had just some phenomenal.
They've had a little bit of a career.
And
Amazing.
it was. And I was there from the beginning to the end, so it was a phenomenal time.
Sure,
but I had to do it, And I came back and I still drank, but it wasn't heavy, right? And it's always different to see something from the opposite side of the bar, right? Because the funny thing about a lot of those, especially in that country scene, Friday and Saturday nights, everybody was at Hang'em High. Wednesday night, everybody was at Dallas Nightclub. Thursday night, everybody was at Dance Across Texas.
Yep.
That was just the lineup, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you saw the exact same people every single night. I think we even talked about this.
Yes,
At some point, you stand behind the bar and you go, all those jackasses have been with all those girls.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And you just look at it because, there's the same group. And you're like, they've all shared each other.
Oh, yeah.
And you're just like, wow. But it's always interesting to see it from the other side of the bar and guys hitting on girls and stuff.
Sure.
That I enjoyed that part.
Oh, of course. Good for you, though, for having the wherewithal, so to speak, of taking a hiatus, And so some people don't recognize the need to do that, and so it sounds like you needed to. And
I
so
definitely did. Yeah.
Job well done.
How about yourself, Brad? Is that something that you guys kind of share in on a normal basis?
Mental health?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I like Chad, I talk very openly about it. In fact, I follow his lead because he is so open about it. But the way I explain it, and I'll try to make this quick, is, we all of us, I think, try to, surround ourselves by highly motivated, highly driven people, right? The reason I'm bringing that up is comparison can be the thief of joy. And so, or for me, right?
But it's true.
So, so trying to keep up with that, and whatever you perceive, say you fail, quote unquote, whatever you perceive as a failure, can really start. You said something about questioning yourself as a man, right? And not wanting to be around some guy friends that maybe might have been performing or whatever, right, in their respective careers and all that, love life, all of that, right?
Yeah.
And wait, man, well, he's doing everything right. Why can't I? And that starts ticking away, and that's what I struggle with. Yeah, of course, and so things get dark, and I try to work on it on a daily basis, and like Chad, try to support anybody that's going through it. Yeah, and that's that.
Yeah.
I find certain things that we might have discussed it again, but that are non-negotiables. Like I personally have to check certain boxes daily, and that's my antidepressant, right? So I have to be productive in some certain way, or whatever it takes. And so if I don't check that, then I start going south a little bit. And so those are just non-negotiables that I at least try. So
it's kind of funny is what I've always learned too is sometimes with mental health come addictions. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's alcohol or drugs or anything else.
Right.
Do you think that you have any addictions?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm addicted to
physical exertion, if that makes sense. I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Because 100%.
Yeah, I think I do, but that's also, it goes back to, we talked, we worked in the oil fields, and now we're in this transition, right? I don't have a job, right? And so the way I equate being productive, it doesn't have to be running a bar or a company that has 13 venues and wild success. I mean, it could be out in the oil fields where you're working 15 hours a day getting your ass handed to you, but I felt fulfilled, right? And so on a daily basis, yes, I have to feel that, even if it's just a 1 or 2 hour workout. Now, trust me, man, it's not a meathead thing. It's almost a therapy thing. Okay, I'm working. In some capacity, I'm working. And I know you're this way, and I 100% know Chad's this way. If I work at anything, I want to try to work really hard, and so that's therapy. Absolutely, I'm addicted to that. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
It's wild. Several years ago, I was talking to Khalil about this.
Oh, yeah.
Khalil Rafati is a fellow that owns Sun Life Organics. If you don't follow him, you should. His life story's unbelievable.
Sure.
But he looked at me one day, and we were talking about addiction. He was like, I'm still an addict, period. I will always be an addict. You just have to trade one for another, because it's still that portion in your mind that you want something to be fulfilled, right?
Man, yes.
And then I looked at that, and he really got into fitness.
Yep.
And then when we were doing his house,
Yep.
He's redone his landscape, Lord knows how many different times. And every time I pass by and I see a crane lowering a tree into his damn yard, I'm like, Khalil, and he's just like, but I get it, and he's got to have those certain things because it's something mental that clicks comfort.
Sure.
Right. It's just unfortunate that sometimes those addictions are stuff that harm us, right?
Right.
And it takes some wherewithal and some knowledge and having walked through certain paths to realize, well, I can be addicted to this because it's a little bit better.
Well, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I read Khalil's book. Amazing book. Yes. Amazing.
If you have the opportunity to hear it in audio.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
Really?
Because the inflection, because he narrates it.
Wow.
And the inflection in his voice is unfucking believable.
Yeah.
Meaning
so you can feel what he's feeling when he reads it. So I started to read it, and then someone told me the same thing, and I put the book down, and Yeah,
Wow.
it's night and day.
I'll do that. Yeah.
I'm going to do that
Yeah,
too.
it's night and
I love that dude.
Yeah.
And you know,
He's cool.
Yeah.
you know, and only because it's so refreshing, in my opinion, to find a human being that is so unapologetically authentic and makes no apologies whatsoever for just being his or herself. And man, and his success story is just unbelievable.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, so anyway.
Phenomenal.
But,
And he's still very humble about it too. And he knows the circle that he has around him is just powerful.
Yeah.
You know?
But he'll also be the first to try to lift up the smaller of us.
Yes.
And you know, if he can help you, he's going to help you. And from what little I've learned about him, anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
good dude.
he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's a good dude for sure. What about you outside of that? What's been something you've fixated on to help? You know, because working out a lot of times or running, or I'm not a runner. I can't stand running. I'll admit it. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me unless I'm running to a taco or something like that. You love doing that shit. I don't.
Run
I just
into a
can't.
taco.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, you know, what are some things that you've learned to try to find comfort in as well?
Yeah, that's a
outside of
great
those?
question, Mike. Basically, there not much. I haven't found much, and going back to being consistent in the gym, that's the one thing for me personally that helps tremendously. Also, I mean, I'll just call the spade, but not drinking as much. In fact, I need to just stop altogether if I'm being honest with myself. But, you know, anytime a friend even calls me and asks me or tells me that they're struggling or whatever, the first thing I ask, are you drinking a lot right now? You know, I mean, let's just, it's the number one factor.
Yeah.
So the things that do work, to answer your question, when I'm actually on my game, so to speak, and putting the work into it, is meditating in the morning. I have a sauna at my house. I'll sit out there. If I read a passage from a book, maybe 10 minutes of reading, believe it or not, and I know this is a buzzword, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but anytime that I even in my head tell myself what I'm grateful for, so gratitude, it will help for that day. Anytime, and this is what's so weird about either addiction or depression or whatever, but anytime I do those things consistently and in a row, you know, for days in a row, then things are smooth. You know, it's almost like the second that I stop any of those, you know, and it's not just one thing. My wife says all the time, it's not just one thing. It's all of these things together. And, you know, then stuff starts going south quickly again.
Yeah.
So, again, to answer your question, my number one thing that helps mitigate any of this is physical activity in the gym and just feeling good about myself.
Yeah.
You know, like it, you know, not that I have to be in Brad shape, but as long as I feel
I don't know many. Hold on.
please.
I don't know many people that are in Brad shape.
Come on, man.
And I always lean on.
Will you take your shirt off?
I'm not
Yeah,
listening.
come on now.
I'm not listening. I'm out.
But,
I'm out.
You know, but yeah, no. But go ahead.
No, that's it. That really is that's the number one thing I've found that helps, you know.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm consistent with it, as long as I just stay on track.
Yeah.
Which again, as a 51-year-old self-motivated man for all of his adult life, the fact that I have issue or find that to be hard sometimes is really interesting. Like, it's truly interesting to me how you can have all of the answers to the test and fail the test. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've failed the test plenty times.
Yeah.
So that's it, man, is just being consistent.
Yeah. There's something to be said about the serotonin that working out gives you and stuff like that as well. And you know, I think that's I'm pretty OCD about things. Like, everything's got to have its particular spot.
We've heard.
You know,
We've heard.
Yeah.
Are you really?
Oh my God. Like,
funny.
Like, our youngest Chase can ask, "Where's a blue pen?" And I'm like, "Third drawer to the left, 3 pens over from the red one."
Really?
And oh yeah, it's bad. And then if I go for it and it's not there, I don't like that shit.
Really?
Because it throws me off. You know, I'm like, this pen is supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Do you remember that we had this conversation with your son and Bristol, and both of them were just nodding emphatically. Like, oh, yes.
But
nothing
the
wrong with
good
that,
thing
buddy.
is I always know everything is, right?
Yeah,
you know, and they know where everything is too. So, and that's, it just makes sense. Organization.
I would give anything to get the code to your door, and you and Bristol are out of town, and Chad and I go over there and just inconspicuously just move everything from the drawers. Nothing messy, but just put everything in the wrong place.
It's funny. Even our closet, we've got a custom closet. And my side is all color coordinated, short sleeves, polos, patterned colors, you know, and then my wife's is just sparkles, purses, you know, and not in any particular
unicorns
order.
and rainbows.
I know,
man.
you know, so she always laughs about it, you know, and so what's funny is I do the laundry in the house too because I'm a little OCD.
Sure.
So every once in a while I'll come home and she'll go, I did laundry, and I just go,
Did you put it away?
Yeah, you know, did you fold it like this? And
I love it.
and it's not. I don't. It's just it's little shortcomings of mine.
Nah,
you
man.
know,
We are who we are.
We all
right?
have our things,
Exactly.
man.
I know.
We
I
all
know.
have our things.
And that's what makes us unique at the end of the day.
You're damn
you
right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you guys coming in here. I want to do it again.
Yeah,
I
man.
really
Oh, yeah,
appreciate you guys sharing your story and, you know, things that you're going through. It's good and refreshing to hear things from other individuals, so you understand that you're not out there alone, and that, you know, there are ways to get through these things, and there's nothing wrong, you know, with guys leaning on one another and being that iron to sharpen the other iron as well. So
Yeah,
I
man.
really appreciate you guys being here, and let's line it up again.
Let's do it, Mike. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's
I
cool,
wouldn't
man.
miss it.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely.